and go to practice.
Welcome to the deserts of Bahrain, where the Formula One circus has rolled into town. We're expecting the cars to appear out on track shortly to start today's practice session. Beside me to take you through free practice today is a man with 3 decades of racing experience under his belt. It is, of course, Anthony Davidson. Thanks for joining us today, Anton. Tell me, where should we be focusing our attention today?
I think we need to be looking across the entire field to see how far these cars are able to push a single set of tyres. While everyone will be trying different setups and running with different fuel loads, if you're attentive enough, you can definitely pick out trends for each type of tyre compound, which will give us a rough idea of how long the drivers are able to stay out there during a stint in the race.
We're going to be logging some extra data during this session. Nothing you need to worry about, but as we have some new parts, we'll just confirm they're performing to spec.
So just like was the case for part number 1 at the Australian Grand Prix, we're going to power through the practice programs here and try and get them as quickly as done as possible. You can see there, I didn't actually manage to do the qualifying or the race pace one. Those were extremely difficult in my opinion, so I just thought instead of wasting time and trying to do them after so many, 30 minutes plus, I'll just kind of skip over them. And I did whatever I could basically, which is the rest of the programs, the tyre management, ERS, fuel management, and the track acclimatization. And yeah, so guys, in these episodes, I'm not really going to go into practice too much, as of course I feel like you guys just want to get to the action of qualifying and then the race. So we're going to just kind of do these overviews every single episode. But do let me know in the comments below, maybe in future episodes, if you may want to see a bit more of an in-depth look at practice. But I can't imagine there'll be an overwhelming majority. So let's just get straight into quali then and see how we can go on the grid.
The cars are ready, the drivers are ready. We hope you're ready as qualifying is about to begin here in Bahrain. And I'm here, of course, with Anthony Davidson on what has turned out to be a very pleasant day indeed. No weather to interfere, no problems on the track, so absolutely no room for error.
That's right, Crofty. It's looking good out there at the moment. Each team will have their own game plan for this session, and of course, once the cars leave the garage, they'll be under parc fermé conditions, so any last-minute adjustments need to be done right here and now. Beyond that, it's all up to the driver. Who can keep their tyres in the right temperature? Who can hit their apexes? No race fuel on board these days, of course. These are the fastest cars we've had in a long, long time, and it's right here in qualifying where they're at their absolute peak. Let's get started.
So standard procedure then into Q1 for the first qualifying session of the, well, I was about to say afternoon, but it's nighttime, isn't it, here at the Bahrain Grand Prix. And the car was actually generally feeling quite good. I mean, compared to 2017, I never felt comfortable around the Sakhir circuit. The car always felt so floaty and very unbalanced and unstable, but the Haas here at least felt very decent, especially in Sector 2 where I had most of my issues. Felt very, very good. So I'm feeling confident that we can do well, but at the same time, I can already notice the AI definitely are very strong. But you can see here in Q1, we're P11 there, Magnussen up in P7, but I'm slowly dropping down the order, and now we're down to P16, and we're behind Pierre Gasly, just ahead of Sergei Sorokin in the Williams. So although I felt comfortable, I was actually quite slow, which is, I don't know, kind of odd, but not too odd in a way. Like sometimes you can definitely feel like you've done a good lap, but the lap time's just not there. And I think that was the case with me, is I felt like I was going well around the circuit, but in reality the lap time just wasn't there. You can see now in Sector 1 I've gained a lot more time. I went a bit more deeper into Turn 1. I was a bit more kind of aggressive with the braking there in Sector 1, and in Sector 2 able to just try and find some more time, and then through the last corner, nice and easy there through that final corner and cross the line, and it's going to be P12 then, and so that will be us into Q2, and actually that's a bit more comfortably into Q2 than I was, remember, in Part 1, because Part 1 I was down in P15. I just about made it through with the skin of my teeth there, so we were kind of already going a little bit better in a way compared to Australia. So now we move into Q2 then. We've only got, unfortunately, one set of tyres now to do Q2, because I used 2 sets of fresh Super Softs in that Q1 run, so that was the only annoying part of not getting up to speed straight away, is now I've only got one new set of Super Softs. So what I did was I went out on a scrub set of Super Softs. So this first set of Super Softs is one I've already used before. It's the one I used in Q1, and I think it already had about nearly 10% wear, so that's quite a lot. So it's not going to be the best lap time by any means, but it's going to give us a little bit of an indication, a bit of a banker lap essentially. And as we come across the line, Hamilton is closing up there, and he goes fastest there, so he's on it like a car bonnet. But we're in P7 at the moment, but obviously, as you would imagine, that quickly goes down the order. And by the time we go back to our garage, Magnussen's there in P9, and I'm way down the order, P13, only ahead of Charles Leclerc and Esteban Ocon there. So we definitely need to do a lot better if we want to get into Q3. And so you can see that I switched to my final set of Super Softs available, a fresh set of Supers. Remember, you only get an extra set of the fastest compound if you get into Q3. If you don't get that extra set. So I have to work with what I have. You can see into turn 1, lost a little bit of time, but then found it back in turns 2. We've only got 4 minutes left of this Q2 session to try and find enough time here, but I'm not really feeling too confident. I'm not going to lie. The pressure is on, though. This is literally like Australia Q3. It's our one shot, essentially. You can see a little bit of a snag of oversteer there on the exit of that corner as we climb the hill through the last corner. A little bit over the curbing. Wasn't ideal. Definitely lost me a bit of time, to be honest, instead of gaining me any time cutting that corner over the curb and across the line. And it is only P11. So last time out, I just about made it into Q3. This time, I just about lost it. And actually, I don't even end up P11 because I go down to P12. Then Perez goes faster. And it looks like we might just slot in between Perez and Stoffel Vandoorne. That is where we finish then, ahead of Vandoorne and Leclerc. Magnussen does get into Q3. So frustrating qualifying here at Bahrain. But also, to be honest, going off the back of F1 2017, I was expecting a lot worse. So I'm actually pleasantly surprised I'm still kind of half there on the pace. So we'll see what we can do on the race strategy, of course. Outside of Q3 now, unlike Australia, I have a free choice of tyres to start on. So I think we'll definitely try and use a bit of an alternative strategy and see what we can do around here for round number 2 of the 2018 career mode. But let's hit the intro then and then go to the grid.
There's something in the Bahrain air tonight, and I'm not just talking about the sand. Our brightest minds have thrust their brightest ideas into the spotlight of the Sakhir circuit this evening as we look ahead once more to a Grand Prix that has thrilled us so consistently in the past. There's no shortage of passing opportunities around the 3.36 miles of the Bahrain International Circuit, with the best at turn 1, of course, and then another soon into turn 4. 15 corners here, 6 to the left and 9 to the right, and we could see 1 or 2 flat spots into the tight left-hander of turn 10. Also here, of course, is Anthony Davidson. Let's talk briefly about Stoffel Vandoorne. Looks like they've got a tough race in store today as grid penalties from changing power unit components has forced them further down the field.
Everyone has to deal with penalties or reliability issues from time to time throughout their career. You just have to suck up the pain and get on with the job at hand. Today isn't about performing a miracle to put the car back where it should be. It's about effective damage limitation.
With that then, let's run through the grid order. An immense lap from Lewis Hamilton yesterday puts him on pole position, with Sebastian Vettel starting alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Raikkonen, Bottas, Daniel Ricciardo and Verstappen, Alonso, Magnussen, Sainz and Sergio Perez, Ocon, the engineer, Pierre Gasly and Hartley, Stroll, Sirotkin, Marcus Ericsson and Nico Hülkenberg. They've taken a grid penalty. Vandoorne and Charles Leclerc rounds off the grid. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
Now that we've got some points on the board, let's continue this form and aim for another top 10 finish.
Yes, indeed, Jeff. Let's try and continue the points haul there. You know, really good start of the Australian Grand Prix for part 1. Hopefully we can make it 2 for 2 in the points. We can see here the race strategy. We're going to start off on default on the super soft tyres, but like I mentioned, the end of the quali portion there, because we have a free choice, I feel like changing it up. Last episode, we got caught up in a lot of traffic, a lot of fighting, and kind of followed the AI a bit too much in a way. I followed the likes of Alonso and Ricciardo into the pits early and made the 2-stop rather than what would have been a probably better 1-stop in clean air. So it looks like it's going to be minimum 2-stop for everyone, and then the more aggressive strategy is 3. So I'm going to do a 2, but I'm going to swap it around. We're going to start on the soft tyres, go to super softs, and then end off on another set of soft tyres there. So the middle part of the race will be the aggressive part where we push hard, and in this first stint, just trying to maybe get a bit of an advantage on some of the cars ahead of us and maybe try and string out this stint then, and then maybe in the middle try and gain some time, a bit of a light lighter car. You know, we'll have maybe a bit of fuel to play with, some ERS to play with, just like we did at the end of Australia. So that's the thinking there. But I think everyone's going to do the 2-stop. So thankfully, I might not get caught out as much as I did at Australia. Because, of course, that was the first race. So I definitely did get caught out. And it's a learning process, remember, as we go through the career mode for the very first time. So here we go then to 5 red lights to the Bahrain Grand Prix. Round number 2 of the F1 2018 career mode. 5 red lights are going to be on for an age. And now they're finally out. And we're underway here for 29 laps around the Bahrain Grand Prix. It's been a shaky start and actually a poor one there compared to everyone being swamped there by Gasly and Hartley. Hartley with a huge dive down the inside of 3-4 cars there, and also the Williams car of Sergei Sorokin. And so we're up into P11. We're able to get Sergio Perez and Ocon. Both Force Indians got caught out on the left, but look at Magnussen there fighting Hartley. Hartley's had an absolute stonker of a start. He's gained about 6 positions into turn 1. We're trying to go around the outside of the Spaniard Carlos Sainz there, and just about keeping the power in there. He's on the right, we're on the outside, but we'll turn to the inside line for the next corner and we'll squeeze him out there. Meanwhile, my teammate Magnussen is still having a ding-dong battle with Brendan Hartley. Look at that, the Kiwi man, you know, the man we overtook at the end of last episode, is really on it like a car bonnet. That's if he does keep this position, that literally is, I think, about 6-7 positions overtaken on lap 1. So that's going to be the start of the season so far. I know there's only been 2 races, but still. But we're watching this battle then with a bit of popcorn in my cockpit, to be honest, because now you can see I'm fiddling around with the ERS deployment and already learning in episode 2 that, you know, when's the right time to play around with it, when do I need to go to low. And pretty much when you got a scenario like this, you got 2 cars fighting ahead of you, you're not going to get a nose in quite yet, so you may as well go to low, even none on the ERS deployment, and try and save it for now. In this scenario, you can see we're trying to close up on Hartley. He's got slipstream with my teammate Magnussen. K-Mag's going to be on the outside, Hartley down the inside with a nice little dive there from the Toro Rosso. They're still side by side and they're going to lose momentum. And now here we go. Can we get a double toe and slipstream? We're up into hot lap momentarily, then to overtake mode on the ERS. Hartley pulls out. We're going to pull to the inside. We're going to make it 3 abreast into turn 1, lap number 2 already, and we're going 3 wide with some cars here, and it's a lovely little overtake. Maybe we can hold it through on the outside. Yes, we can, and it is a double overtake then on my teammate and Hartley. Look at that, now they're getting swamped, and you've got the Force India, the Renault, the other Toro Rosso, Pierre Gasly also getting in the fight, and look at that, whole gaggle of cars, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all within 1 camera shot, and Hartley just about stays ahead, but Magnussen is losing out to the Force India. Around the outside he goes of that Sergio Perez, I think that is the Mexican. Meanwhile, out ahead of us is Fernando Alonso, that was, ahead of the Red Bull there. That flash of papaya orange was ahead of one of the Red Bull cars, so that's very, very odd. So is there more issues for a Red Bull car? We'll have to see. This is a replay then. This is a replay of lap number 1. This is Verstappen now. He's side by side with Alonso. He gets ahead of him, and so on lap 1, I wonder, oh God, is there going to be some contact here? And a bit of a Red Bull civil war between Verstappen and Ricciardo. I think that was a bit of contact made, and I think just about, if you look closely enough on the right-hand side of Verstappen's car, I think he's lost some cascade elements of his front wing. So last episode, Ricciardo had an issue he had an issue outright in stint 1, but then had a bigger issue by breaking a bit of his front wing on, ironically, the back of this man, Fernando Alonso. And now in episode 2, Verstappen's the one that had issues. He's made contact with his teammate, and so this is another replay of whilst I was fighting Hartley and overtaking him and Magnussen, ahead of us was Alonso slipstreaming Verstappen, and so that's Fernando Alonso in the McLaren Renault overtaking the Red Bull of Verstappen there. As you can see in the background there, that's the fight between me, Hartley and Magnussen, just going into turn 1 there. And so that's Alonso ahead of Verstappen. So fair play, really nice stuff. And so now we move back to the live racing action. And so as we try and chase after now a injured and limping Max Verstappen, we've got Magnussen behind me trying to overtake Hartley, or re-overtake Hartley, try and get the position back. And he does so with some DRS here, some ERS deployment, no doubt. And he gets ahead. I've got to say as well, away from the racing, I love the spark detailing on this year's game. It's the best it's ever been, really. Just those sparks, just like you see in real life. They've done a really good job on making it look very much like the real life Bahrain Grand Prix. And now, as we go through down the order, Pierre Gasly chasing after the Force India and the Renault of Sainz and Perez. And Gasly's going to go for a move down the inside of both of them. And he's done it, I think. Just round the outside of Sainz now to go. And yes, he has. It's a fantastic move there for the Frenchman, the other Toro Rosso. The Toro Rossos are really in the wars today, just like they were in real life at the Bahrain Grand Prix. They went well there in real life, remember. And Pierre Gasly with an amazing double overtake on Perez and Carlos Sainz. Sainz has lost out to Perez now, and so it's Perez, Sainz, and then Ocon in a bit of a Force India sandwich. Then you've got Charles Leclerc here, just ahead of the two Williams cars. Then Nico Hulkenberg, Van Dorn, and one of the first Williams cars. So Hulkenberg with an absolute mare of a start to this Bahrain Grand Prix, and Leclerc doing a great job to be ahead of Hulkenberg and those two other cars. And so now we move back to our POV, or back to our focus really, and you can see here now we're chasing after Max Verstappen. So we're going through a couple of laps in the first stint, and you can see we are definitely rapidly visually closing up to Max Verstappen, and that damage on his front wing is really now hindering him. So I think maybe on this next straight, onto the pit straight on lap number 5, we should have a good opportunity to maybe overtake him. You can see there on the bottom right, we're in low on ERS deployment right now into the last corner. Then we're going to bump it up into hot lap mode momentarily. Then to overtake mode, we're going to have DRS as well. And so you can see already episode number 2, I'm starting to wise up. Unlike Australia, I'm starting to wise up into where's the best points of different circuits, of put it into low, put it into none, save the ERS, save it for the main straights, where obviously that's the most important, trying to punch through with that electrical power. And you can see we close up to Verstappen now in Sector 1. And pretty much, just like was the case in Australia with Ricciardo, I would say it's pretty much just a matter of time before we overtake Verstappen, because he's clearly suffering quite a bit in the downforce region, and through the corners, usually the Red Bull should have us for chips, but he's not. And you can see here, we're rapidly now closing up through the S section now. Can we make a dive bomb move on Verstappen? Going to have to make it count here, because otherwise he's going to hold us up down the inside. Very, very close there, but we do get it on Verstappen, and we're up into P7. So it's been a great first opening stint here at the Bahrain Grand Prix, up into P7. I would say best of the rest, but Fernando Alonso's there, best of the rest, carrying that McLaren up in a very lofty P6 for himself, but still a very, very good start to this Grand Prix. And now I think some cars might be starting to come in for their pit stops here. So as we go down the main straight though, actually instead of worrying about people in the pits, as my teammate pits, it's actually going to be Verstappen I need to worry about, because look at that, he's come out of nowhere. I really wasn't focused on him trying to re-overtake me, but he's come down the inside there, obviously used a lot more ERS than I did. I was just going along in medium there for a second, and so we have to do some defensive work. We do hold it and we keep P7 there, but definitely caught out and surprised. And so clearly that's going to be another characteristic this season, is the AI might just surprise us with the ERS deployment. If I'm not concentrating enough mid-race on what I'm doing in my deployment, they will spring a surprise on me. But now you can see on lap 7, we've got the first few pit stops for people on super soft tyres. Of course, I'm on a harder compounded tyre, the soft tyre, so we're going a lot longer into this Grand Prix. Probably around into, I would say, lap 10-ish at least, minimum. So still going on for a fair few laps then. On lap 8, we're up into P5 now, just ahead of Lewis Hamilton then. The race leader, I believe, actually, has just come out behind us then. And so I think probably it can be pretty damn quick before he overtakes us. And yep, straight away he's going to overtake us then on the exit of turn 2. Obviously Mercedes v Haas, that's no competition there. We've got a long, big gulf to climb till we get even to the top 3 region of pace with the Mercedes, the Ferrari and the Red Bull cars. But at the moment there, Vettel right behind me, but that'll be a swift overtake as well. At the moment we're just trying to not lose as much time as I can in this bit of top traffic, and so we move on to lap 10, and I call it perfectly. Lap 10 was the time we're going to come in. We're in P4 now. Remember, we were P7 before anyone made pit stops, so let's see where we come out. I have a feeling I got held up a bit too much there with Hamilton and Vettel as well. You guys didn't see it, but Vettel eventually overtook me as well as also Kimi Raikkonen. So I think I might have lost a bit of time being basically overtaken by those guys, despite me not putting up a fight at all. They still lost me a bit of time. So we strapped on super softs now, like I mentioned. So we're going to go fast now on this stint, but we're going to come out behind K-Mag. K-Mag goes through also the Force India, and then also Van Dorn's McLaren. We just about squeeze out Van Dorn. That's a crucial squeeze out there. But yeah, something has gone quite wrong. We've come out behind Perez and Magnussen. Of course, they came in a lot earlier. They came in on lap 7, so they've got a major undercut. But at the same time, I think that's just really a case of I went so slow at the end of my soft stint that it just didn't work out for me. So that's a little bit frustrating, and again, a bit of a learning process that I needed to kind of maybe hurry it up a little bit or come in earlier for this first pit stop there. So we're going to rapidly close up to Perez though. That's the only good kind of solace I can take here, is that the fact that although Perez has jumped us, you can see how fast I've closed up to him on that outlap there, right up his gearbox now. We'll bump it up into high on the ERS mode, move to the left-hand side, trying to make a move on the outside of the last corner. It's going to be a nice little overtake there, find the grip, and get the momentum. But then, just like was the case in Australia, the Mercedes engine in the back of the Force India pulling him through, and he's coming back to re-overtake us. We're literally level pegging now as we go towards turn 1. DRS wide open. We're on overtake mode on ERS, and yet he was still level pegging with us. But around the outside then finally into turn 1, and we're up into P10. So we're back in the points, but Magnussen, look at the minimap. I can't even see Magnussen's dot. Only now can I see his dot on the minimap, and he's ages away from me. You know, a good 7-8 seconds plus. So he's gained a lot, and I've lost a lot in that stint in the soft. So that's really frustrating. But also at the same time, you've got to say that's really cool to see, because you know, I've got to admit, obviously, as we go through the running order there, just showing you the top kind of 5 there with Hamilton, the Ferraris and Bottas, and then you've got the Red Bull of Ricciardo, then the Force India here of Ocon, I think that is, and then you've got Fernando Alonso and Leclerc fighting, just like they do in real life. Leclerc, I believe, is trying a 1-stop here on softs to mediums, and Fernando Alonso is not. Obviously, he's doing a 2-stop, and Alonso at the moment can't overtake Leclerc, so that's really neat to see. Just like real life, Leclerc and Alonso are fighting here in the game. But I was about to say, as we look through these replay cameras then, as we go on, it's kind of almost good to see that Magnussen is giving me a real good run for the money, because in too many past F1 games, the teammates have just not been strong enough. And at the moment, I'll put my hands up, Magnussen has me. He's got me covered at the moment. I need to definitely improve rapidly as we go on through this career mode if I want to try and match him, because at the moment, especially when the tyre wear kicks in, he's doing a much better job. But finally, Alonso does overtake Charles Leclerc there around the outside of turn 1 then, and he gets that finally. But yeah, like I said, really good to see Alonso and Leclerc fighting like that, just as was the case in real life, I believe, in the first opening round of the season. But now we come through lap 14. We've got a car stricken there to Ericsson, so Leclerc's teammate not having such a good time there in his Sauber, and he's out the Grand Prix. We're still in P10 and trying to chase after K-Mag, but Leclerc now comes in along with a Force India. Oh, I think that was Ocon or Perez. No, it was Ocon, wasn't it? Because we already overtook Perez. So we're up into P8 now, but remember I said Leclerc and maybe even Ocon, actually, you got to say, looking at that, I think Ocon and Leclerc are trying a 1-stop strategy. They started on soft tyres, and they're going so long here into this Grand Prix, lap 15, and now I think they've gone onto medium tyres to go to the end of this Grand Prix. So we're going to have to see about that. We might have to do some late last-minute overtakes in the last laps of the Grand Prix if they start to wear out their tyres. Meanwhile, you've got Alonso coming in as well as Perez, and you've got the 2 Toro Rosso cars now fighting into turn 1. You've got Gasly, I think that is, on the outside of turn 1 to the inside of turn 2, unable to overtake Brendan Hartley there. So the 2 Toro Rossos having a good scrap. And so as we move on later into the Grand Prix then, it's lap 17. We're coming in for our pit stop then finally. So we only got 7 laps on the Super Softs, but pretty much just like the AI did. They pit on lap 7. We took 7 laps of the Super Soft, so as expected. And so now we go to the end of the Grand Prix. 12 laps to go on soft tyres, but it's not looking great, actually. I've lost a lot of pace throughout this Grand Prix, so I think the opening laps of this Grand Prix definitely gave me a false sense of security of what my pace is like. And remember, at the end of the day, I actually qualified in P13. That's my pace here around this circuit, not up in P7. And I think it shows, because I've just been falling backwards and backwards in this Grand Prix now. And so on lap 18, with 11 laps to go now, we're out in P13, ahead of Lance Stroll, and K-Mag is actually the car ahead of me. So not only do I have to overtake some cars in this Grand Prix, K-Mag's going to have to overtake some cars as well. We move on to lap 18 then, on to lap 19, 10 laps to go now. We overtake Hartley and also another car there. I think that's the Force India Perez. And so we're through into turn 1, and we're just outside the points. Meanwhile, we've got Ocon now. This is overtaking Fernando Alonso. And you can see there, both Alonso and Ocon on medium tyres. But Ocon, crucially, is on a 1-stop. Fernando has already made 1 other pit stop. So he's on a 2-stop, but he's still gone to the medium tyre, kind of strangely enough. But Alonso down the inside of the Frenchman there. They're having a great scrap. And Ocon giving Alonso a real good run for the money. They're still neck and neck for nearly now half a lap this will be. And Alonso squirts the throttle though, gets around the outside and just about uses the better chassis and downforce of the McLaren in this game compared to the Force India to stay ahead. Then you've got Leclerc ahead of Magnussen there. Magnussen chasing down Charles Leclerc, but Leclerc, just like Ocon, on a 1-stop. So me and Magnussen will be hoping to overtake Leclerc, Ocon. maybe Alonso, I'm not too sure. Maybe Magnussen could get Alonso, but you can see clearly I'm nowhere to be seen in the background there. You couldn't even see my car in the background shot. And only now is Magnussen now closing up on Leclerc to overtake him on the outside. DRS wide open, and can he do this then? The Dane on the outside of the Monegascan on the inside. There he is. It's very close. There's some contact made, and Leclerc is doing a fabulous job in his second race in Formula 1. Remember, me and Leclerc are debut rookies in Formula 1, and he's doing a stonking job at the moment to stay ahead of my teammate for now. Leclerc goes defensive though on the last corner though. K-Mag has the grip maybe round the outside, not quite, but he will have a better run, and he's actually got it. No, he has got it. A great little move there round the outside of the last corner, in before they get to the DRS zone. Magnussen's made the pass, and he is through. So now Magnussen has free air to try and chase after the Frenchman Esteban Ocon on that one stop, who's behind Alonso in what is, I think, P6, I think. So now on lap 26 now, 3 laps to go. We're in P10. And the car ahead of us is Charles Leclerc in P9. So, unfortunately, I've got to say, I think we're fighting for a maximum of P9 in this Grand Prix, which, just like Australia, I'm going to be kind of half disappointed by, but also I'm going to still say that I still have a lot to learn. This game, once you play it, guys, for yourselves, you'll understand the handling of the game is so different to 2017. The cars feel entirely different. The ERS system is entirely different. So it's going to take a couple of races, I think, for me to get up to speed truly and maybe match Magnussen for pace. Meanwhile, talking about the battles we've had so far, that was Sebastian Vettel overtaking Hamilton for the lead of this Grand Prix. The two championship rivals in real life. Great to see them battling, toe-to-toe in the game right now. Hamilton tries to get the lead back from Vettel. Vettel defends really well into turn 1 to the outside of turn 2, and Hamilton can't get it. So Vettel will remain in P1 in the Grand Prix, and I think should take that through to the end for the victory at the Bahrain Grand Prix, with Hamilton second and Raikkonen third. Now back to our POV now for the final scrap here, on towards lap 27. DRS available. We've got some ERS, but not a lot, but we're up into overtake mode now on the ERS there. Rich mix going, DRS open, and we've got all the tools at our disposal to try and overtake Leclerc now down the inside. But remember, just like in real life, the Sauber is a pretty good car in a straight line, but we do get that initially into turn 1. Leclerc has a little bit of a sniff into turn 2, but we get that, and we're up into now what is P9, of course. 2 points that will be today. You can see the tyres are wearing out a little bit, and you can see at the moment on the bottom right, look at that, I don't have a lot of ERS deployment. That blue bar is electrical energy. I don't have a lot of it, and you can see here I've been so late to bump it up into high and into rich mix there. Now Leclerc has DRS, and look at the rocket ship of the Sauber come through, and he's clean past me. Unlike me, I had to do some braking and actually had to kind of battle him side by side into turn 1. He just rocketed past me cleanly. So just like I said, in real life, Leclerc said in interviews that the Sauber is very good in a straight line, and it's good to see in the game they've modelled that quite correctly. But saying that, we're not going to give up the fight, of course. Our car should be better in the corners, and we've only got a lap and 2/3 pretty much left of this Grand Prix. So although it'll only be for one more point this afternoon, at this early stage of my career, every point counts. I need to try and do the best job I can for Haas. And so we got P10, which is our objective for the team in the contract, but we're going to now dive down the inside of Leclerc. We caught him napping a little bit through the S section, and he locked up as well, which is really good to see. AI making some mistakes there, and I tried to give him the room, and so we're still behind him in the end, because I could have maybe squeezed him out there on the exit of the hairpin, but I would have made some contact with him. I want to try and keep this as clean and fair as we can at the very end of this Grand Prix there. So as we go up towards the hill then into the last sector, can we get a good run? We've had DRS to help close up to Leclerc, and we're right up his gearbox now. Can we both remove down the inside? No! Oh my god, we got the curbing there, and we've rode the curb like a skateboard. It's only been the second episode I brought out that phrase there. That was a good show of how the curb physics are in this year's game. The new curbs on F1 2018 will kill you. They will chuck you off, and they won't be taking any of your shit. So, yeah, be definitely quite careful on the curbings. And now you can see, though, Leclerc's had a really poor entry into the last corner. We swooped down the inside for a nice undercut switchback move there on the racing line. We're going to bump up the ERS mode. He's got the DRS, though, and so we're going to have to try and do... No, we've got the DRS, actually. I'm mistaken. So we're going to try and defend, though, to the inside. He's got still some great straight line speed. We defend to turn 1, and we're just about going to keep that for P9. But, wow, I nearly completely wrecked the car in that second last lap of the Grand Prix, because if I didn't catch that opposite lock, that car would have gone in the wall or just would have been off, and I would have not been able to overtake Leclerc for P9. But it is the overtake then. Sebastian Vettel has won the Bahrain Grand Prix, and we're going to come home in P9 with 2 points on the board.
Great drive, great drive. We're really happy with that performance.
Here's our winner, pulling their Ferrari into Parc Fermé. What a fantastic race it was. So, Ant, how exactly did they set themselves apart from the pack today?
Well, I'd say it's just raw pace, plain and simple. I mean, we could sit here and talk about strategy all day, the overtaking, looking after the tyres, but at the end of it all, if you want to win, you need a package that's got the speed over everyone else, and that's exactly what they had today.
So, here they come now, out onto the podium. Wherever you go, anywhere in the world, the prancing horse flags are dominant in the grandstands, and they're out in force again today. It's Ferrari on the top step once more.
So my engineer said at the end of that race he was quite happy with that result, and you can see there K-Mag only came in P8, so although I felt like I was even further off the pace to Magnussen than I was in Australia, he only finished 1 place ahead of me, and like I said last episode, at the end, if you caught it, I feel like in this year's game, as long as you kind of match the contract objectives, it's kind of half okay to be beaten by your teammate. I think the game is a little bit more lenient and kind of actually takes into account all the factors. Like last game, I feel like it was very black and white about how it kind of perceived you as a reputation and how the game thought you were going and progressing your career. And now I feel in 2018, it takes into context what happened in your race, what your objective was, and what the situation was. And you can see we're doing a very decent job. Me and K-Mag both. We're in 4th place there now. Obviously, Red Bull were going to eventually re-overtake us for 3rd place in the Constructors, but we're still ahead of McLaren and Renault, which I feel like are our 2 rivals. And we've already got a decent amount of points ahead of McLaren. And Renault are actually really surprising me. They're doing really badly this season. It seems like they have the qualifying pace, but in the race, they just fall away. So, yeah, very, very odd. But you can see there, yeah, in the teammate challenge there, I'm being beaten by K-Mag now by a couple of points, 2 points to be exact, 10-8 there. So hopefully next time out at the Chinese Grand Prix, I can maybe do one over him, try and get some points back in that driver rivalry. Of course, at some point, I'll also be able to choose my own rival. So not only are you a rival with your teammate in this year's game, you can then choose another rival, and if you beat that rival, you can get extra reputation points. So we'll be looking out for that and see how that progresses. So as we come on then to the end of that race weekend, then of course you can see we get an extra 400 points for completing 1 clean race, which was a contract perk of ours. So throughout your career, you get contract perks, guys, and if you